you said yes. Just remind me. It's almost like I know you. It's weird. I walked into the church and you said, hi, Pastor Taylor. It's almost like I know you. Somewhere or something. I don't know if I dreamt about you. But I would love the honor to pray for you at the end of this service. If that's okay. So greetings to all of you today. And it's really, really good to be part of this new family. This new fellowship and friendship that we hope to develop over the next, God knows how long. Really, where we go from here is really in the hands of God. And for that reason, I do feel extremely nervous. I've never had to deal with anything like this before. It came completely from left field. Didn't see it coming in no way, shape or form. And I just believe that our God doesn't make mistakes.
Hallelujah.
Exactly what he's doing.
Hallelujah.
And to God be the glory.
Hallelujah.
So special greetings to my friend Paul, Pastor Paul and Lorraine, who we have become very, very close to in the year since I've been at Family Worship Centre. I've just found them to be really nice, genuine people.
Yeah.
From where I come from and from my upbringing, that is very important to me. I pull away very quickly when I find false people. I won't tell you to your face, but I pull away. Because of my upbringing and the things I've had to handle, the people I've dealt with, I don't easily trust. Don't easily trust. And when I heard that Paul and Lorraine were coming to join, I said, God, what's this? So I said, Lord, let me just watch them and suss them out and just feel their spirits. That's what I do. I'll be honest, that's what I do. But to God be the glory.
Hallelujah. Yeah.
Somebody said, give them the flower on their life.
Yeah.
Stop the update. Right, so greetings to all of you. Greetings to my lovely wife. With my heartbeat, and I like to see her in front of the church. Because if I don't get a praise from anybody else, I'll get a hallelujah. To all of you who are in here, members and friends and prospective ministers from Korea, and if there are any leadership in here, God bless you. I do have something I really, really battled about tonight, and I battled to find out what was appropriate. I could have preached on a whole range of things. I could have talked about faithfulness, I could have talked about recovery, I could have talked about rekindling love for one another, I could have talked about getting out of the pit like Joseph and seeing a new beginning and all kind of things. And I kind of really asked God, and it took me a good while yesterday morning just meditating, but I want to share this with you. I hope I won't be too long with you, but I want to share this with you. I'd like you, if you would please, to go to two passages for me. The first is Exodus chapter 4. I won't read the whole text, I'll just read a few verses from there. Exodus chapter 4, and then, thank you, and then I'll go to 1 Corinthians very, very quickly. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, 26. So if you go to Exodus, it's the second book of the Bible, Exodus chapter 4, and when you found it, just say amen. Amen. Praise the Lord. Moses answered and said, I won't read all of it, but I'll just touch on a few key verses. Moses answered and said, but behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say, the Lord has not appeared unto you. And the Lord said to him, what is that in thy hand? And he said, Lord, a rod. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. The Lord said to Moses, put forth thine hand and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand. Verse 5, that they may believe that the Lord God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has appeared unto them. The Lord said unto him furthermore, put now thine hand into your bosom, And he put his hand into his bosom. When he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. He put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And this time it turned again as his other flesh. I'm going to jump down to verse 10. Moses said, and I want you to get a hold of this because it's quite key. Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither beforehand nor since you've spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. And the Lord said unto him, Who made man's mouth? Or who makes the deaf or the dumb, or the seeing or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, I will be your mouth, and teach thee what you shall say. Let's go briefly to 1 Corinthians chapter 1. And then 2 verses there, then I will finish. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 26 to 29. For you see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, nor many mighty, nor many noble are called. But God has chosen the foolish things of this world to confound the wise, and God has chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty, and the base things of the world, and things which are despised has God chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring to naught things are, and things that are. Therefore, no flesh should glory in his presence. Amen. I'd like to talk to this assembly tonight on the theme, what is that you have in your hand? In my church, I like to say, turn to your neighbor. I won't do that too much tonight. It's an Americanism. I kind of slap myself sometimes for doing it too often. But just to humor me, would you turn to your neighbor and say, what is that?
What is that?
You have in your hand.
What is that you have in your hand?
What is that that you have in your hand?
So I guess tonight is really about where do we go from here. It was the Apostle Paul who wrote, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching toward those things which are before. Paul said, I press toward the mark for what? For the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. And as we gather here, this meeting is more significant than two congregations getting together. It is more significant than a relaunch. It's more significant than the food that we'll be sharing later on. It's more significant than the solo singing and the praise worship. It's really about where do we go from here. And not only where do we go from here, but if we make it personal, where do I go from here? Where do you go from here? Rather than looking at your neighbor now, I want you to take an internal look and say, Lord, with all the stuff that's happened at Billsley over the years, where do I go from here? The question is asked, what kind of people does God invest in? Paul's words here in the passage might well come as a bit of a shock because they're shocking because they run counterculturally against most of the ideas that we have been raised with. You see, our society tells us that the right kind of people are the ones who wear the best clothes. They're the ones who have the nicer houses. The best kind of people are the ones that have the greatest talents and the greatest abilities. Really, that's the kind of people that the world likes to invest in. But Paul says that God chooses the seemingly foolish, the seemingly weak, and the seemingly insignificant as the world sees us. Those are the kind of people that he calls. In fact, the Bible is very clear. He says he doesn't call many wise people, many of the so-called great intellectual people, because their minds are sold out and they've already made a decision that everything about their living is down to them. Yes. They have no need of any God in the sky. They have no need of any God who came and created us.
Yeah.
Their raison d'etre, if you like, for living is getting up in the morning and it's all about me, me, me.
Yeah.
I'll go to work, I'll drive the car, I'll bring up the kids, I'll look after myself. And how many of us know that none of us can live for one moment or a second? We can't breathe for a moment unless God blesses us to live and to breathe.
Yeah.
In Him I live.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. In Him I move, and in Him I have my being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hallelujah. Oh God, I feel like I'm a truck.
Hallelujah.
And He said the reason He does it this way is because He doesn't want anybody but Him to get the glory. You see,
Hallelujah.
the clever people want to get the glory. The clever singers, the clever worship leaders, the clever musicians, everybody wants to get the glory. But God says, I'm going to choose some ordinary people, some low-class people, if you like, some low-down people, because there I'm going to understand that had it not been for the grace of God,
Hallelujah.
and to God.
Yeah.
But there's a message